We make the argument that it fits like a glove what Trump did related to the speech that he gave on the mall. You can tell this story in terms of Trump summoning the people to Washington, then his conduct during the day, leaving out the specific words he used on the mall, but the tweet that he sent out that had to do with Pence isn't doing his job, and then sitting there for 187 minutes and doing nothing and really lending support. He participated in an insurrection.
So does the special counsel, Jack Smith, have what it takes and the evidence to prove that Donald Trump actively participated in an insurrection? Well, that guy seems to think that he does. That is the former Deputy Attorney General under President George H.W. Bush, Donald Ayer, who says that the evidence is there, the speeches are there, the plot in the background is there, the links to Mike Pence, the communications on the day, there's a lot of evidence there. And in terms of being able to prove that he knew that this was illegitimate, you have to be able to show that he knew that he had lost. And we know that that's out there. He referenced that too, saying he said it to a bunch of people. He may have said it to his family members. And so he knew he had lost and he went ahead and he did these things. So at the end of the day, it is of course not going to come down to Donald Ayer or any former deputy attorney generals or anything like that. It's going to come down to, will the special counsel pursue charges specifically related to January 6th, to the insurrection? And if he does, what form might they come in and how strong is the evidence? While Donald Trump is facing multiple different sets of charges having to do with the fraud, having to do with E. Jean Carroll, and obviously very notably the classified documents, all of that is super significant. The classified documents do have to do with national security, so they are serious too. But what is coming, over the next month or so, maybe even sooner when it comes to Fulton County, which we'll be talking about, I do think that these are more important charges. It is, I think, harder for reasonable people to just cast these aside and think that it's documents, everybody does it. The things that he's going to apparently face indictments over the next month are not things that everyone has done. Joe Biden hasn't done them, Mike Pence arguably hasn't done them. There are serious concerns. And so with that, we're gonna move on to other aspects of this, including a front in this that I had not really been familiar with prior to this week, and that has to do with Arizona. So that is one of the states where the so-called fake electors scheme was being worked on. And apparently the Attorney General of Arizona, Chris May, is investigating the transmission of an alternative slate of electors, which is the terminology that is used by the right. It doesn't mean anything. There are no alternative slates. It's just a thing that they wrote down. There's no mechanism for that. So just to be clear, it was entirely fraudulent from the very beginning, intentionally. So, but anyway, Chris Mays, the Attorney General, says we have to make sure that it's clear to everyone it's unacceptable to try to steal an election, to undermine and overthrow an election, and that's what happened. We have to make sure what happened in 2020 never happens again. Back at the time, John Eastman, one of the legal advisors to Donald Trump, was involved in this fake elector scheme and wrote in a memo. At the end, Mike Pence, announces that because of the ongoing disputes in the 7 states, there are no electors that can be deemed validly appointed in those states. There are at this point 232 votes for the Electoral College for Trump, 222 for Biden. Pence then gavels, President Trump is reelected. So the plan, we already know the people that were involved in the different states, and we know from the very top level what the idea was. We pretend that there's ambiguity when ambiguity does not exist. We have Mike Pence do something that he has no constitutional nor legal authority to do, to just say, what are you gonna do? I guess we'll just go with whoever was winning at this point, which is Trump. Trump's president. That's not how any of this works, but that's what they were pursuing. Brett, are you interested in this part of the story?
I'm interested in all parts of the story, John. The same level of interest I had in them when they started, and they don't seem tangibly different now, in my opinion. This is the kind of thing that will keep. This investigation in Arizona
is developing. I had not known that that was something that was being worked on prior to this week.
But okay, here we go. In my opinion, in the mind of the average human being who lives in America, there's a bunch of stuff Trump did wrong. I, as a voter, have an opinion on that already that is not going to change. And that opinion is either I love him and I want him to bear my children or whatever, or I hate the guy, he shouldn't be president anymore. Or you're just like this person in the middle who either is like, I like the tax cuts or I don't. And you're just like, he's too much of a headache. It is my contention that these investigations can and will and should proceed in ways that will probably get as far as they can go, none of which really preclude him from being able to run for president again. The sad fact of like how we should be perceived or perceive ourselves as an America should probably stop short of stopping this dude from being able to run for president again. He should probably try, and all this should just be kind of out there. It's a crappy position we're in. Donald Trump is solely responsible for it. His conspirators, his co-conspirators are the rest of the party elites, the rest of like the party grab-ons to his coattails, and the media organizations whose whole charter is just to make money off of it.
Yeah, 100%. Also bear in mind, I know that a lot of these have been going on for a really long time, but for some of this, it does not appear that we're gonna have to wait very long. When it comes to the attempt to overthrow the election in Georgia, the Fulton County investigation, they have impaneled the grand jury, and it is expected that indictments, if they are to come, will come at some point between July 31st and the second or third week of August. So we are talking about the next month, basically. Some of the most significant indictments, again, state level indictments, theoretically that he cannot simply make evaporate when he becomes president again. So bear that in mind as we go forward.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.